Hi, I'm Trent Vichie, CEO of EverWind Fuels. We're developing a green hydrogen and green ammonia project up in Atlantic Canada in Nova Scotia. And delighted to be here today to illuminate on our efforts in the industry. Why now is really an important point. So we've hit an inflection point where the cost of renewable power has come down to a level where making green hydrogen from renewable resources is becoming like far more economic. Part of that is really driven by sort of scale, timing. So that's come along quite a ways. We're also in a market environment where there is impediments to investing in fossil fuels. And so that has led to a rise in sort of traditional energy sources. And lastly, it's really from a desire in government policy across the board to try and drive our economies to a true net zero. So in terms of what it takes to invest in green hydrogen right now, it's really around developing and creating the assets. So in the case of green hydrogen, it's really around creating electrolyzer facilities or production facilities connected to renewable power. And so it really takes skills of developing, permitting, and bringing those projects to life. It's clearly an intensive effort when you're trying to build these projects, and it really requires multidisciplinary skills, both in terms of like renewable power production facilities, marine process, and so it really requires that multidisciplinary skill. In terms of who's investing in the space right now, you're seeing a lot of effort from the oil super majors. They are very clearly focused on transitioning their business over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So you're seeing big plays from the likes of the Shells and the BPs and others in the world, taking large positions and putting huge teams to work on in that space. You're seeing corporates, so select corporates and utilities who are putting real effort into that as well. Similarly, they're driven by trying to transition their businesses, and also seeing an investment opportunity to be new providers of green hydrogen and liquid energy. The real beauty, I think, of green hydrogen is we're finally at a point in time where we can answer the question of what do you do when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. So green hydrogen allows for the capturing of that renewable energy to be used as and when it's needed. And so that's a fairly broad recognition. We're clearly early here, but just like you saw with wind and solar, we expect, and we have good reason to believe, that there will be efficiencies and relative cost decreases as those processes get more efficient and you start building on a large industrial scale. So if you take a look at history in terms of what type of players tend to sort of be on the forefront of these markets, I think there's some lessons that you can learn from both early days of LNG in North America and wind and solar. Look, in the case of LNG, and I'll pick on the Gulf Coast for the moment, you saw Cheniere, which was led by a small entrepreneurial team initially, taking a position, moving quickly. Other players like Freeport, again, another entrepreneurial team, Venture Global, and also New Fortress Energy has been an entrepreneur in that space. The larger corporates will come along, and the reason why you see sort of smaller teams, at least initially, is because it requires speed, flexibility, and decision making. And it's just easier to do that in a smaller entrepreneurial environment with people who have that multidisciplinary skills. I think you'll see, like, no question, the larger players moving in scale. It just will take like more time, etc. So I think for folks like ourselves at EverWinds, we're looking to sort of be first movers, move quickly, and try and sort of catalyze the market as part of this first wave. And history has shown you that. In the case of wind, you've also seen companies like Invenergy, other smaller developers who've sort of led, and then what ultimately happens over time is it becomes more institutionalized and there's an aggregation of assets. I think you'll see a very, very similar approach here as well. I also think you will see smaller entrepreneurial teams partnering up with larger corporates as well, and you've seen some of that already in the Middle East, and you'll start to see more of that in North America. So really a combination of a faster entrepreneurial team, and then with the larger balance sheets. That's something that is clearly playing out in the market right now. We're seeing it directly ourselves. Looking for deals right now, I think the obvious places to invest are with parties that are skilled at creating assets. So smaller entrepreneurial teams that are doing capital raises. Some fund managers have got real skill at building and developing assets. So they're probably the earlier places. I think the investment opportunity set will open up a lot more over time. So I think institutional investors need like a little bit of patience, but once a few of the early deals start coming together, I think the opportunity will grow, quite a bit more. Also, just candidly on the renewable side, the fuel for green hydrogen is renewable power. So there will be opportunities to invest in that are those type of assets that are feeding, production facilities. So I think it's a fast evolving space. I would say that, sticking to sort of quality, skilled, experienced parties is going to be order of the day. With any time there's a new industry, there's a lot of noise and, announcements of various projects. What you'll likely see is far more projects announced than actually get completed. And that's normal and natural in this type of space. So focusing on parties that have those skills and also the right assets. We picked a brownfield site, and that is probably saving us somewhere in the order of 3 or 4 years of permitting to bring it to market. So really selecting sort of good teams with sensible execution strategies. In terms of the economics of green hydrogen and where to build it, look, first and foremost, where the best renewable resources is typically the right place to do that, where you've got very high solar irradiance or wind. Typically, the best places that, where folks are focusing on is a combination of the two. For example, where we're looking to build our project is in a very, very high wind region. So it's really low cost of renewables. I'd also say that enough space and the social acceptance to build those renewable assets. Look, the other thing that's coming very firmly into play is where there is government support and the ability to bring these projects to life. You've seen that with the US with the IRA program. Expect to see that will be replicated in some form or another in jurisdictions. So that will give good policy support. I also think that you want to be looking at places where you can get projects done on a fast, certain time frame, and that tends to be areas or regions or states that have a history of moving projects through the permitting and process on a quick time frame as well. And so there's places in the US, up in Canada as well, that are well suited to it. There's certainly plenty of places in other parts of the world as well. But I think, really focusing on those key things is probably a good guidepost as to where to put the capital today.